he's a pretty sharp guy. I kind of wish NASCAR would listen a little bit more to him.
The more manufacturers that want to be in the sport, the healthier it is for the sport.
The way to classify us is just hard racers. Bobby and myself both, we started early and we ran a lot of races.
Welcome on to the Backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams, and what an exciting week this is for NASCAR. Series is in Mexico City. First points race outside of the country in the modern era of NASCAR. We have raced a couple of exhibition races in Japan. There were some point races in Canada and in other places in the era of NASCAR before the modern era. But first time we're going to race a points race outside of the country. And I have to be honest with you, looking at the posts from the people in the industry that are down there in Mexico City, I am incredibly jealous of the experience that they're going to get this weekend. The venue looks amazing. The racing's going to be great because there's going to be so many unknowns. I'm just really excited about what's going to happen this week. It is very interesting that Denny Hamlin is not down there. When we recorded our segment with Chris, it was still a little bit up in the air as to whether or not Hamlin would make the trip down there. We now know that he is not down there. Ryan Truex is going to be in the 11 car this weekend. Hamlin had his baby boy, his wife, his fiance, had their baby boy on Thursday. So Hamlin did not make the trip down there. He has already received a playoff waiver, so he will keep his points and all that kind of stuff going into the playoffs. All of his bonus points are intact. Congratulations to Denny Hamlin, but it is an interesting sign of the times for sure that drivers are doing what absolutely, morally is probably correct to be with his fiance and his family after the birth of his child, but even 5 or 10 years ago, probably wouldn't have been accepted in the sport. And so it just goes to show how much we as a society, we as a sport have evolved. And, good for him. Congratulations. He'll be back next week at Pocono. There's a ton to talk about, including Mr. Hamlin's performance last week at Michigan with Chris. He's kind of an old dude. I know he just had a baby, but in the scope of NASCAR, he's 44 years old, kind of an old dude. Still hanging with the young kids, though. 3 wins, tied for the most in the garage this season. And he just keeps on keeping on. So we'll talk about that with Chris. We will also talk about Dodge making its return to NASCAR starting next year in Chris's series, the Truck Series. And then we'll look ahead to Mexico City, the challenges the teams have faced to get down there, and what we can expect from that race. So as always, it's great to have Chris on board. And then because everybody went down to Mexico City, it was kind of difficult to book a guest this week for the Backstretch. So what I decided to do instead was I did a story race week here in Bristol with Donnie Allison about his brother Bobby, who passed away in the off season. And I just decided I wanted to share that entire conversation because the story that we ended up doing ended up being pretty short. Time-wise, I just didn't have time to get into a lot of the backstory of him and his relationship with Bristol and being a part of the Alabama gang and finally getting the win at Bowman Gray Stadium given to him. Something he always maintained that he won that race at Bowman Gray Stadium. So I just want to play the whole interview in its entirety. A little bit of it might be dated because I said it started as a story for Bristol Race Week. But I think it's a fascinating conversation. Anytime you can sit down and have a conversation with a NASCAR Hall of Famer, I think it's worth sharing. So it's about 7.5 minutes of me talking to Donnie Allison. And I think you'll really enjoy his insight on being a part of the Alabama game and about his brother, Bobby. So that's what we have coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's get to Chris. Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who is also the crew chief for the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. Denny Hamlin won for the 57th time in his Cup Series career this past weekend. He is now just 3 shy of 60, which would put him 10th all time. Considering he's 44 years old at the time of this taping, is expecting his third baby to come anytime now. And oh, by the way, he's also in the middle of a lawsuit with NASCAR. Just how impressive is it that he can still perform at such a high level?
I think it's very impressive. I mean, that number of races, if you think about it, Heather, I mean, I face it every day to know how hard it is to win in the truck series, okay, which has become really competitive, a lot of competitive teams. But if you compare it to how hard it is to win in the Cup Series, and albeit I know he's with a great team, great people around him, excellent equipment, so on and so forth. He's just one of many that have that same lineup, that same credentials with them every time they go race. And he is a guy that he doesn't have to come to the racetrack and have a dominant car to win the race, because with that age and with that number of races comes a lot of experience, and he's learned, in his mind how to keep thinking when he's in the car, just like Sunday, and things are maybe not for a while looking so great, but Cup races are long races, and a lot of stuff can happen, and a lot of different strategies can work. And I think Denny is a thinking driver, and I think it's proven. And I think, again, like Sunday's race, you just keep on, and I'm going to make it. I'll tell you this much. He's going to be in the final 8.
For sure.
He is.
No, I think he's
going to be in the final 8
every year.
Every year, you can count on it. Will he make it to the final 4? I would almost bet on it, because that's when, to get through each of those stages at the end of the season to get to the next round, it usually takes somewhere in there, it takes somebody that's got some savvy, some experience, be able to be calm and make the best out of the situation no matter what it is, where it is, when it is. Denny Hamlin and his team can do that. And you mentioned about their feud with NASCAR, lawsuit. This is huge stuff. To be owner of that team and trying to concentrate on that, and then driving for Joe Gibbs and doing the kind of job he's doing and keeping all that going and together. And now he's got 3 children. I've got 1, and I don't know what. But anyway.
And she takes care of herself most of the time.
She takes care of herself. Well, I'm very blessed about that. But to know just what all his world is full of, and then he does a lot of social media podcasts.
Oh, he's got his podcast and everything. Let me tell you the thing that I think might be the most impressive part of all of this, of all of his success. Mm-hmm. I heard a stat the other day where he has now had either 6 or 7 crew chiefs in his career. And he's won with every one of them. Yeah. He's won at least 1 race with every one of them. And he's only had 1 year in his career where he hasn't won at least 1 race.
I don't, if you go back through history, and I'm talking about way back, BC, before Chris, there's not many drivers that can say that.
No, I mean, if you look at some of the best drivers in the world, once they were with a certain crew chief, they had success. Jimmy Johnson. As soon as they were split apart, not as much success. Yeah. And Denny has been able to do it consistently, no matter who the crew chief. And I think that's impressive, because it's hard. It's very hard.
Oh, it's just incredibly hard. And, the thing that, he came from what I call local, short track, late model, down to earth, bone deep, old school racing in Virginia. Not far from here, way up there around South Boston, then people talk. But he knows what cars are, simple race cars are made of, and how they react, and he learned that, and he carries that knowledge, he carries that experience, and he uses it. And he might be, how old did you say was he?
44.
44, but he's a modern day guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just cool as a bunch of balloons, and he fits in. He is his own man, and
That's
he's
for
got
sure.
his own opinions, and his opinions are sometimes, I guess some of us think, how'd he do that? But how'd he come up with that? But it's like, if you really sit down and think about it, he knows a lot about this sport, a lot. And to be able to do what he does as a driver on the racetrack in the Cup Series and do it consistently, and when you show, those guys know that pretty much every race, they're going to have to beat Denny. And there's only one other driver that I know of that I think does it more consistently and may actually come and dominate races, and that's Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
That's the only one that anybody else, no. There's no, that I don't put anybody really above Denny Hamlin when it comes to like, okay, what can I count on him to win races? I think he does a great job for that team. I think he does a great job in a lot of things, and he's a pretty sharp guy. I kind of wish NASCAR would listen a little bit more to him now and then. It might, things might. I believe he really cares. I believe he really cares about this sport and cares about this business.
That's for sure. He does it.
He cares about it.
Everything he does because he thinks it's what's best for
That's
NASCAR.
what.
And there aren't enough people like that in the sport.
Yeah.
Across all sport, all the landscape of the sport, journalists, everything.
You have that 100% right, and that's why I'll be honest with you. When people boo him, it kind of irks me, because.
But
really,
he's embraced that. He's fine with it.
Oh, he don't listen. All it does, it makes him giggle harder.
Yeah.
When he wins the race, he said, "I beat your favorite driver," and all that stuff. But we don't have enough people like him that's in a position to where he can say what he wants and everything, but really cares about the sport.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
He doesn't just care about Denny Hamlin. He cares about this sport. He cares about this business. He cares about how it's going to be 5 years down the road, next year, 5 years down the road, 10 years, all that. And he came from a big background, or a really hard, difficult, good background, and he wasn't backed by a millionaire family.
No, he's one of the few drivers that did it the hard way.
Did it the hard way, and he cares about this sport. So, I guess if he beat our favorite driver, then he deserves it.
I mean, maybe he is some people's favorite driver. Speaking of the future of the sport, Dodge is coming back to NASCAR starting next year in your series, the Truck Series, with eyes on the Cup Series at some point. So what does this mean for the sport to have Dodge coming back to NASCAR?
I think overall it's going to be a great thing. I think it'll be just another car manufacturer involved in our sport, and I really think that as time goes by, there'll be more. Dodge is a little bit easier fit because of the vehicles they sell, and a little bit easier than some of the other manufacturers that I think very well could be in the near future. But Dodge is coming back. They were in this sport for many years. They were in the Truck Series and put a big footprint in the Cup Series, Truck Series when they were here before. I think they'll do it 100%. I believe they'll do it, and I believe they'll go out and they'll want to win races. And they'll, Heather, to be quite honest with you, it's just, if nothing else, it's just going to be a couple or three more teams and more jobs and some more trucks in the field, and they'll be quality trucks. And now, instead of when you go to a truck race now, I'm telling you, there are 22 to 24 trucks in the field every race. The trucks are very, very capable of winning races. Now, I'm not telling you that every driver is as capable as the other, because we've got a lot of young drivers in the Truck Series with less experience and so on and so forth. But you put Dodges in, I mean, good night. We're going to be going on 27, 28, maybe 30 trucks could win the race. So it's very competitive. It's very tight. It's very difficult right now, and Dodge coming in is going to take on the challenge. They'll make a big big imprint, and it won't be long till they'll climb on up. They want to get back on Sunday racing in the Cup Series, and they'll do that 100% also. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good for the sport. I think the more manufacturers that want to be in the sport, the healthier it is for the sport.
Oh, absolutely.
It shows that the sport is attracting and not pushing people away, which is always
100%,
always good.
100%. And you know, there's probably a lot of Chrysler fans, people that are Chrysler product loyal and have been for a long time, and they don't feel like they've had anything to pull for a while. And you know, it may draw some back in, just say, hey, all right, I'm going to have I think they call it a Ram, you know, and that's my trucks. I don't care who's driving it. I don't care what they're doing. That's why I'm going to go watch the race or watch it on TV and support their products. So that is what keeps NASCAR racing going and succeeding. And the more we can get of it, the better.
I agree. So we're headed to Mexico this weekend. How much of a challenge is this for the teams, and what can we expect from the racing?
The challenges for the teams they're very big, real challenges, because this is a long way. It's across the border. It's the truck hauler drivers, at least, will go through some territory that could be a little hostile. You know, possibly. They're going to have to take a lot of safety precautions, and they're doing that. I know NASCAR is elbow deep into, you know, helping them plan travel and accommodations and back and forth to the racetrack. It's all going to be kind of, you know, everybody does the same thing, stays in the same place, stays, you know, don't go out and don't have any nightlife, please. Now, if all will do that, probably not, but some will. I think there'll be, personally, I think there'll be a humongous crowd there.
Oh, I've been watching, I don't know if you are familiar with the app Tubi for Roku, but they have a NASCAR channel there, and they show old races. So this week they've been showing old than Busch Series races, but Xfinity Series races.
Yes.
And they said that there were 60,000 people there for qualifying and 100,000 for the Busch Series race. Now we're talking about a Cup Series race.
Now we're talking about a Cup race and an Xfinity Series race on Saturday. And I don't know if they've built on more seats to the place or whatever, but you know, Heather, a road course has a lot of places for people to be.
Just to stand around.
Just to stand around if they want to park their campers or cars, whatever. Find a place, find a little hilltop to sit on or whatever. That road courses, that's one thing about them. People just keep coming, you know, and whether they have an actual grandstand or bleacher seat really doesn't matter, because there's a lot of infield and outfield, you know, and I think the attention to it will be humongous, and I'm sure that, you know, I'm pretty sure that Daniel Suarez is going to be the local, you know, hometown hero favorite. Good for him. I'm glad for it. I'm glad for those people. They have somebody that, you know, they can clasp onto, and Daniel's, well, he won at Sonoma 3 years ago or whatever it was, and I can tell you I can tell you this for sure, Sonoma is as hard of a road course, especially with a Cup car, as there is. It's as hard. It's difficult because it's very slippery, very worn out, very tight, takes a lot of technical, and it takes a lot of. It's a driver's race.
And I think Daniel has won on this course in NASCAR Mexico.
So. I can't tell you that for sure.
And they've run F1 races on this course too.
Yes. So I think it's, you know, it's hard. There are obstacles for these guys to overcome. They had to do a lot of planning. I don't even know when their haulers left, but I'll bet it was
the haulers
early.
are already there.
Already there.
Already
Good for them.
there.
I hope everybody got there safely with no issues. I heard little bits of hauler drivers talking on social media about how they were going to do it. They did a lot at Michigan with switching cars out, and I think they went straight from Michigan, now that I think about it. And then, you know, coming back, it will be, again, I think...
Well, let me ask you this, because we talked a lot about the hauler drivers, not to interrupt, but how much pressure did that put on the teams? Because I'm assuming they had to have their Mexico City
yes.
cars ready last week since they left straight from Michigan.
They had to every day. They took them to Michigan in secondary haulers and switched them out. I think it was the morning of the race, maybe at Michigan, I believe is how it worked. They've done that in the past. This is not something new. They did that a lot with a lot of West Coast trips. You had to, because if you didn't do it anyway, you're not going to get to the next place, which would be Mexico City, or you'd be dragging in there at the last minute. So I'm positive of this, that it was very organized, that the people had it down. They're professionals. These teams are the best teams in the world at stock car racing. I can tell you this, the community of hauler drivers, I have no doubt in saying they are probably the best in the world too, at a lot of cross country and getting stuff from here to there no matter what, and has to be on time. You think about it, they work under a lot of pressure, because if they have a uh-oh at the wrong time going to a racetrack and don't get there, then ooh.
If you ever want to see how talented NASCAR hauler drivers are, go to Bristol when they're parking those things in that little tiny racetrack and watch them do that. It is an absolute ballet. It is art.
And it's not, it is a little bit dangerous. And I've actually never done it. I keep saying that I'm going to. I may do this in September. But to actually go down in, a lot of guys go down in and be in the driver's seat to go over that bank and go down there, and they make that turn and you feel that thing trying to tip over and you're looking at a concrete wall right in front of you.
Yeah.
Whew, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, and on your also the next thing is to see them do it at Martinsville. Now Martinsville's a flat racetrack, but to pull in there, they pull those trucks and they pull those things in places that I couldn't park my pickup truck in.
Yeah,
literally.
No, seriously, it's crazy.
And it is crazy, and they do it without even blinking. And they just keep on doing this all year long, and you know, most people would be pulling their hair out to say, you mean to tell me I got to go straight from Michigan and go to Mexico City, never see the house, never see, they do it. What's for lunch? and keep going and do it and have it done. There you say they're already there. I mean, it's like say, okay, what's next? Great bunch of very talented, very skilled. I've been down through the years. I've been very fortunate to work with some, be around some guys of that community, and a lot of respect. I don't know how they do some of the stuff they do, and good for them. I'm glad. I hope and pray safe travels through this coming weekend from Mexico back, and all through the year, every one of them, because there's a lot of miles put on those rigs. Woo. So anyway, I think the racing will be good. I'm hoping the weather will be good. I think it is. Dave Dirks is taking the night off, I guess. He can't tell us, whatever. I don't know where he's at, but it's road course, so they'll race anyway.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see, this is the kind of thing that those drivers, they're going to clasp on this, and they're going to say, I want to be the first one to win.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be the guy.
By the way, the guy, and we don't think of him in road courses, and I don't necessarily say I'm going to pick him to win, but you know who the guy who always seems to show up in these kind of races? Joey Logano.
Joey Logano.
He won the first dirt track race at Bristol.
He did that.
He won the first race at the Clash.
He did that.
He won, there's another one that he won. There's 3 of them that he's won, because he likes being the guy. He likes being the man that wins the first event. And
it's because he's a talented guy, a talented driver. He doesn't think anything is too big a task for him to overcome. And
they're going to have to start running better, though.
Yeah, well, and though this is the kind of thing that, it could be the thing that he might help carry this over. They're due to turn a little bit of stuff around. They are due. They haven't run well lately. Their team has been struggling as a whole a little bit, even though Ryan Blaney won a race 2 weeks ago.
Ryan Blaney's running fine.
Ryan Blaney's running fine.
Joey has been out to lunch probably since he won.
Yeah,
they were not even a factor in Michigan.
No, they were not, and that's not the first race, and they're just...
They weren't really a factor at Nashville or at Charlotte.
No, and I wonder, I don't know this, I wonder if they're like, okay, we're in the playoffs, let's try some offbeat stuff, see if we can find a miracle here or something we can use down when the playoffs start. Now remember, this team we've stood right here and said
written them off.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it. They might as well quit.
I'll never write them off. But this season reminds me a little bit more of 2 years ago, coming off the championship in 22, when they were eliminated in the first round at Bristol, than it does of last year or of 22.
It could be. I don't know what all's going on there, but the season rolls along, and again, to your point, Joey is one of those guys that seems like when you put a real nice shiny apple out there that everybody wants to grab and take the first bite of, he's the guy that a lot of times seems to get there first. He finds a way somehow. And, like the what do they call it, the clash at Wilkesboro 2 years ago, he just wiped everybody out. It wasn't even a contest, all-star race, I'm sorry. It wasn't even a contest. And I don't know. I think that's a good point. I know some people on that team. They're very good friends of mine. They got confidence in him, and they got confidence in themselves. They're not going to run bad for long.
No,
they're going to fix it. They're going to get there one way or another. That whole company has been through some ups and downs here. The month of May was not very good to them, and they've been through some glitches and some issues and some problems and this, that, and other. Personnel changes that, is never easy to go through, but now they will surround the wagons, grab the troops together, get it, and they'll be. Who knows? Somebody's going to come away with a really nice win this weekend too. Actually, the Xfinity race is going to be the same way. Again, you put out something that's a little bit different. I want to be the first one. I want to be the guy that can win the unique thing. It just kind of puts you up on that higher shelf, at least for a little while. And I think it'll be some very competitive racing, and you're going to have a pretty loud crowd to go along with it.
Appreciate your time today and for you doing this. I want to talk about you and your family at Bristol. You guys we just left the Legend Plaza where you guys are. You guys were very good here. What was it about Bristol and your family?
Well, actually, our first race at Bristol was in 1960. Bobby and I went there. I didn't have a car. I took one with him, and it was modified. And the racetrack was the old design and wasn't as banked as much, but then they banked it. And as far as I was concerned, I liked it. I liked to run the faster time. You drove your car harder. Just something about it I liked better. But Bobby was really good there, and so was Davey. Davey ran extremely well there.
Your brother won here 4 times. Most of the time by multiple laps. Was it just the high speeds and the banking that fit his style and fit him?
Well, I don't know if that was it or was just the attrition of the other cars. The racetrack was very hard on the equipment and drivers, and it was noted for the winner to be in a lap by 2 or 3 laps ahead, even more than that sometimes. It's just a weird place for that.
I don't think people really understand how hard Bristol was back in the day.
My God, yes.
And also on cars.
It was extremely hard on race cars, and it was also very hard on drivers.
Explain that to us young folks that don't really understand what that was like.
No, they can't, because the person sitting in the stands up there actually knows how hot it gets sometimes, and the time it's consumed to run that race. It takes a long time.
Your brother was such an icon for this sport. Do you ever sit back? I mean, you were yourself too. You were just in the Hall of Fame, but do you ever just sit back and think about the Allison family's place in NASCAR history? Because it's pretty incredible.
From time to time when people bring it up and talk about it, I do a little bit. Bobby and myself both, that was something we did. I mean, I don't know what his feelings were as far as, going and making a big name for himself or whatever, but I didn't think of it like that. I wanted to win races, and Bobby wanted to win races, and strangely enough, we did.
I was at Bowman Gray this year for the All-Star, or for the Clash, and the whole thing, giving him the win there and naming the trophy after him, was so cool. How much did it mean to him and to your family to finally get that win at Bowman Gray for him?
Well, I think really that culminated his life. He died right after that. And, I think that was the icing on the cake, so to speak. It was very, very, very big to him. He used to say to me, I won that race. Bill France Jr. used to get on me all the time about every time I see him, he said, "You need to talk to your brother." I said, "No, you're the one that needs to talk to my brother." I said, "Because he won the race." And, I had to talk with Jim France, not too long before they finally gave him that win. And I told him, I said, "Jimmy," I says, "he deserves that. He won that race."
What do you want people to say about Bobby and you and the rest of the Allison family when the record book is written on the Allisons? What did you guys give to NASCAR? What were you guys to NASCAR?
Geez, I don't know. I
Alabama game is being rough and tumble, hard racers, tough nosed guys. Like what's the reputation you would like for us to know about you?
Well, I would just say that the way to classify us is just hard racers. Bobby and myself both, we started early and we ran a lot of races. He ran the Grand National Circuit when he ran 64 races. And I never ran that many of them, but I ran a lot more as far as the modifieds and the sportsmen went.
For my final thought, let's talk about Mexico City. As I mentioned, I am just immensely jealous of the people that are down there in Mexico City right now enjoying the racing. But I said on a Zoom call, it was just the Ford Performance Zoom call. They have them every week. This week was Zane Smith, and he brought up a really good point that I think kind of needs, I guess, emphasizing a little bit, which is I see a lot of social media, and I know I have to try to stay off of social media, especially specific parts of social media, because it's very negative all the time. But there's been a lot of talk about safety and don't leave your hotel and Mexico City, this and that. And it reminds me, and it reminded Zane, a lot of the same things that were being said 2.5 years ago before we went to Chicago. Oh gosh, there's so much crime in Chicago and it's going to be dangerous and fans are going to be this and that. And we're racing on the street. And I get people don't like change and the unknown is very difficult. But 1 year down in Chicago, and I think people just realize how awesome it was, how not dangerous that part of the city is. I mean, there's danger everywhere. I could walk out here in Bristol, Tennessee, small town USA, and something could happen. But for the most part, that part of Chicago is very safe. For the most part, where they're going to be NASCAR wise in Mexico City is safe. F1 races there. You don't think that all those high rollers in F1 would go to a place that's inherently dangerous? Of course not. So I think some of those concerns are a little bit overblown. I think, and this was Zane's point, and I'm absolutely going to back him up on this, I think we just need to enjoy the cool experience of being someplace different, somewhere neat. The video and the pictures coming out of Mexico City, the way that the track goes right in the middle, right in between two sides of the grandstand, that's cool. Like, I just cannot wait to watch this race and to watch it all unfold and to see history made in the sport. And I kind of wish a fan base, and again, I know it's just one corner of social media that I am trying very hard to stay away from, but I just wish we would more embrace something new and cool and different and fun. I know that I'm going to, and I hope you will too. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. We'll see you next week.